Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be doing something relatively different from the norm. It's going to be my first impressions of a group that I've never listened to any of their music before. That being English progressive rock trio Emerson, Lake and Palmer. And this is going to be it's probably a series I do relatively often when I discover a new group or get some really nice suggestions in the comments below. Just kind of listening to about from 3 to 5 songs, depending on how interested I am, and kind of giving my first impressions and, talking about like my assumptions of what the rest of the group's music is like, etc. and things like that. So if you enjoy this video, please be sure to subscribe and give me some comments and suggesting a couple other groups that I might do another video on. And getting into the band, it's surprising that I don't know much about them. I'm very invested in the progressive rock genre, and I've always seen Emerson, Lake and Palmer around, but I've never actually listened to any of their songs. So the band obviously is comprised of Keith Emerson, Greg Lake, and Carl Palmer, as the band is named. And the songs I listened to over these past couple days were Tarkus, Karn, Evil 9, First Impression, All I Want Is You, and Black Moon. These are all from different albums varying across their discography from, let me take a look at my notes, in 71, 73, 78, and 1992. So I kind of wanted to get like a wide breadth of what they were doing and how their music has evolved, not just kind of like picking from their like best era or things like that. And the one thing that I found very interesting throughout listening to all of these was how little guitar there was. And as I say, though it might be YouTube, big red flags for a YouTube video, I am just kind of putting my generalizations out there from the little information that I do know. So feel free to correct me or give me more information in the comments. I'm always open to hearing more. But from what I have heard, it seems that they are very much reliant on the keyboard. Like that is like the main driving force behind the melody. And obviously with the drums backing it up. And with very little else. I mean, there is bass that you can hear throughout the whole thing, kind of being the nice backbone of a lot of things, but it's the keyboard that really kind of pushes everything forward, and that is most of the songs. The thing that I found really interesting was how they could incorporate the intricacy of progressive rock with so few parts, with really just, like I said, keyboard, drum, and the occasional other little accent piece, which is really what I had found the guitar to be, really an accent piece. I wrote down that I found a guitar solo in Tarkus about 13 and 15 minutes in, and a couple other spots within Karn, Evil 9, and that was really about it. Nothing too prevalent. It really is just a little sprinkling that they kind of put here or there, but nothing really too involved, which is really interesting. Something that I would say is akin to Genesis with their reliance more on the keyboard, but then also akin to Rush with the lesser parts and just being a trio, which is a really interesting concept, and I was really excited to see where the music went forward. There was a lot that I found interesting in each of the songs individually. First, like just as an overarching statement, I really loved how the drums brought the rhythmic complexity. Yes, that might sound very obvious because that's what the instrument does, but what really made it truly amazing was that despite with all its complexity, it didn't overshadow the keys or the vocals, which I thought was really, really well done, because it's very easy, especially within progressive rock or a genre which is more involved than just the usual 4/4 pop or pop rock type stuff. It's really easy for people to get carried away and add way too much so other parts overshadow. And though it might be done somewhere within these pieces, it was always on purpose, where the drums would either take over or take the melody or something like that. But none of the parts really, in a bad way, not on purpose, like it went like, oh, it's all muddled here and there's kind of just noise happening instead of actual music. So I found that to be really nice, especially within Tarkus. I really, really liked Tarkus. I think it was my favorite of the 4 pieces that I did listen to. And I was interested, and I listened to a couple other pieces within it. I didn't add them into my list because I didn't pay as close attention. I just kind of had them on in the background, but I did enjoy the other songs that were on the album Tarkus. And what I really enjoyed was the beginning of Tarkus, because well, maybe it was because it was my like initial reaction, so there might be like a little bias right there. I'm not entirely sure, but I really loved the way that it opened. It was it was a really like stark introduction to be like, all right, this is kind of what this group is about. So I thought that was really cool. The Karn Evil 9, I really want to listen to the other impressions of it. I didn't, because I wanted to kind of pare it down to a couple songs, so I wasn't like going way too in depth with a bunch of stuff. But I really liked it. I thought that the vocals were done very well. It wasn't the strongest performance I've ever heard from any of the bands. There were a lot of others that I could name that I think are a lot better. But they did the job, and they did the job really darn well. So it really all just kind of meshed together really nicely. And then All I Want Is You and Black Moon weren't as strong. And looking through a bunch of articles and interviews and stuff with people, I saw a lot of resentment towards the album that All I Want Is You was off of. I think that was Love Beach. It should be in my notes somewhere. But yeah, didn't care for that one as much. But again, it was fine. No, I didn't find anything particularly wrong with it. And same with Black Moon. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't terrible. One thing that I had for sure that I wanted to mention was that I saw there was a comparison of the release of the whole album Black Moon to Union by Yes. And if you've seen my other Yes videos on this channel, you know that I very much don't like Union. I thought it was... I think it's in like the bottom 2 of Yes's albums. So comparing that to the Black Moon to Union, I was like, oh boy, well, maybe I'll avoid the rest of this album. Another thing that I found very, very interesting was when looking through all of their releases that the 80s were just skipped. There was just nothing released in the 80s. And well, obviously because the group broke up at that point. But my one usual big complaint about groups is the commercialization of the 80s music and how it usually isn't to my taste for the most part. But Emerson, Lake and Palmer just skipped that era, so I have nothing to say about it, which is, I thought that was kind of funny. Speaking of funny things about this group, I did read that in like the mid-70s that they were tax exiles. So I don't know how that situation happened. I didn't look too deeply into it because I was too focused on the music, but I thought that was hysterical because I was like, okay, I guess that's a tidbit of information. I did, alrighty then. So in total, I think everything was good. There was nothing too terrible, but also nothing that I was like, this is my new favorite song and I'm going to blast it at every possible moment. I would say that of all the other groups that I have covered on my channel so far, just to name a few, Rush, Yes, Genesis, ELO, things like that, I would have to say that I think that I would rank them the lowest out of all of those that I just named. But again, that being said, I don't dislike it. I am keen to explore more in the rest of what they have to offer because there was some good stuff in there. But the only thing that I wasn't as keen on was, though that they had less parts, I didn't care for the ones that they pick and chose. The reason why I love Rush is because it is just guitar, bass, drums, and what they can do with that is really, really amazing. When it's just the keyboard that is really kind of the melody, and that's the star of the show throughout the whole thing, I think there's only so much you can do with that. Within progressive rock, it kind of all starts to feel samey. That's what I kind of started to feel as I was going through the last 2 songs. Though, as I said, I've only listened to a couple songs. It all kind of started to feel samey, and it's hard for me to discern it within my mind which song was which and what parts go with what. Maybe my musical brain wasn't as on point as maybe I wanted it to be. I could make that excuse and say that, or what I think is truly the case is that it kind of all gives me a similar vibe throughout the whole thing. All the albums from what I have experienced so far was kind of samey. But as I said, I am excited to see what else they have to offer. So I hope you enjoyed my first impressions of this group. If you have any advice for how I could look at them further, or another group that you want me to talk about later with other first impressions, please be sure to let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one for something a little bit different. Bye-bye.